So whether as leader or as a campaigning backbencher, could the return of Boris Johnson save the Tories? Let's get the views now of a man who supported Boris Johnson loyally throughout his premiership, the Conservative MP for Lichfield, Michael Fabricant. Michael, great to see you. The Tories have nothing to lose. Bring back Boris.
Yeah, bring back Boris, I agree. But I'm not saying we should get rid of Rishi Sunak either. I think they could both work well together. I think they've both got different skills. You know, Rishi's very, very steady. He knows what he needs to achieve in the next few months and years. And Boris has got that pizzazz and maybe sometimes, you know, that long distance view, which others don't have. So, yeah, let's bring back Boris. But the question is, how? How do we do that?
Well, indeed, what are the logistics? Do you think he could find a safe seat before the election?
Yeah, there are a number of seats where MPs are standing down. Some, of course, are ones which are not winnable or they think they're not winnable. Others are very safe seats. I'm standing in Lichfield, though. I'm not giving mine up. But, you know, you talked about Henley, which, of course, was his former seat. There has already been a candidate selected there, and I don't know whether she would be prepared to give her seat up for Boris. But there will be other seats. There always are. Before every general election, there's always a number of people go at the very last minute. And if Boris could get one of those, if he wants to get one of those, I think it would be very good for the Conservative Party. And good for Rishi Sunak, too.
Now, Michael, you'll clearly almost certainly be returned as the Member of Parliament for Lichfield because your constituents are so happy and you're a very, very successful local MP. But should the Conservatives collapse at the next election, do you think that if Boris Johnson finds himself back in the Commons, he'd be in pole position to become leader once again?
He could be. He could be. But, of course, there are a number of others who are interested in that job, too. If they're re-elected, I'm talking about people like Penny Mordaunt, Suella Braverman. I mean, I could name a number of people.
Kemi Badenoch.
Pardon?
Kemi Badenoch.
Kemi Badenoch, absolutely. And others, too, that I think others are not even talking about at the moment.
Sorry to interrupt you, Michael. If the Tories collapsed the next election, needed a new leader, and Boris was in the Commons, would he be top of your list?
I think he would be near the top. You know, honestly, you know what? When I first decided, you know, who I was going to have to vote for, I didn't originally support Boris, but then I backed Boris when he was Prime Minister because he had the long-term view, you know, whether it was our relationship with the United States, whether it was getting us out of the European Union. And yes, by making sure that we were the first country in the world to have a vaccine program against COVID. All of that was under Boris's watch. He got the big answers right. So, yeah, he would be one of the people at the very top of my list.
OK, well, listen, let's get the views.
I don't even want to think about it. You know what? 40% of people haven't even decided yet how they're going to vote. Keir Starmer, we know that Rishi Sunak lags in popularity behind the Conservative Party, but what's not generally known is that Keir Starmer is lagging behind the Labour Party. So, you know, there's a lot of ifs, buts and ands over the next few months.
Well, stay there, Michael. Let me bring in my fantastic pundits tonight. Former BBC Chief Political Correspondent John Sargent, journalist and communications advisor Linda Jubilee, and former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards. Well, a return of Boris Johnson to the House of Commons would have Labour running scared, wouldn't it, Paul Richards?
Can I just make an announcement on behalf of the entire Labour movement? Please, please, please bring back Boris Johnson. It would be the best thing ever for us. It would guarantee the next election being won by Labour. It would remind everyone of Partygate and the fact that they got rid of him because of Partygate and all of that. And it would remind everyone why they got rid of him in the first place. Bring him back, please.
OK. Listen, what do you think about this, John Sargent? Do you agree with Michael that Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak could work together to win the next election?
Well, no, the problem about it is if you assume, this is a working assumption, that the Tories are going to lose, the big question after the election is who was to blame. And therefore, what you don't want to be, if you're Boris Johnson, you've got any sense, is to make sure that you're not, in fact, somehow going to take the blame for what could be a catastrophic Conservative defeat. Much better keep your powder dry. Now, Boris is, whatever else you can say about him, is a highly intelligent man. He knows a great deal about politics. He won't be stupid enough to fall for this.
OK. Linda, briefly, if you can, do you share the view that the Conservatives will suffer a crushing defeat, or do you think that Michael's right, the outcome is yet to be decided?
It's interesting what he says about the 40% being undecided, and there's no doubt that there is such a thing as shy Tories who have not voted yet. We don't know how they'll vote. But at the moment, there's a 20-point lead in the polls for Keir Starmer. That's very, very important. And actually, if you listen to Rachel Reeves and how the Labour Party have built links with the city, with financial institutions, with big business, with the corporate world, I think that kind of thing is very encouraging and very confidence-building for the public. Can I say one thing, though? I agree with Jacob Rees-Mogg. I mean, Boris is a great campaigner, so there wouldn't be any problem bringing him back for the campaign for the general election. But I can't, for example, see him being parachuted into the Henley seat. Caroline Newton, I'm sure, wants to hang on to being the next candidate there.
All right. Briefly, Michael, when do you think the date of the election will be? Do you think it's likely to be November now? Where's your money?
Yeah, my money's on October or November. It was never May. More importantly, in May, we've got to get my friend Andy Street re-elected in the West Midlands. So that's what I'm concentrating on.
Michael, we'll catch up soon. Thank you so much for joining us. The MP for Lichfield, Michael Fabricant.